Hey everybody, Steve here. We're back and we're going to try out some laser etching onto a knife blade. This is kind of interesting because it's a little break from the engraving that I've been doing on tile, actually slate, as you can see there, which came out really good. We've been doing a number of these. That's another one. That's a little bit lighter, but not bad. And then we've been also engraving in the past, doing some metal engravings. Focus. So we got some good results on that there. With that being said, I have engraved some things onto my little folding Gerber knife on the hilt, and with like a Celtic knot on the other side, I did a little veteran thing on there. And then I was like, you know what? The blade on this is dark as well. So what I'll end up doing is I'd like to try to do some damascus type etching onto the blade, because that's kind of a dark color. You know, we get a dark color, and then of course if you reverse the image, engrave it so that the white shines through and it leaves the black, that should look like a, I don't know, damascus etching sort of. So we're going to go ahead and do that, but let's take a look because I want to show you kind of what we're looking at here. So when we're looking at damascus etching, you can see this, you know, or acid etching type of thing that we get here. You know, we got some pretty cool looking stuff. So what I ended up doing is finding a graphic that looks like a little bit like some damascus etching. So yeah, that's what we're going to try to attempt in this, and let's jump right into it. I'm not sure if this is going to work or not, but we found this, and you have to realize that I'm limited in space because the engraving area is only 80 by 80 millimeters, which is like 3.14 inches by 3.14. So we angled this to be able to fit the blade of the little Gerber there. And so you can see it's like 79 by 78, so we got a little bit of wiggle room. And then we had to orientate our knife onto the bed, and then yeah, it's just going to be really interesting to see how this works out. Excuse me. So I know there's people out there that will do jigs and they'll do templates and things like that, but this is just kind of a one-off thing with the little 5-watt desktop laser. So, you know, I'll do the one side and we'll see if maybe we can do the other side. I don't know if we'll be able to because it's got a little clip and it's too high for the laser. We'll see. Maybe I could take the little clip off. But for some of the details on this, that is the graphic that we're using, and these are the settings. So we can see that we're at a speed of 150 with a max power of 100, no air assist because it's not a thing, and we do the negative image. Our line interval is 0.05, and we're using a Jarvis mode, which is a high quality dithering, usually best for smooth shaded or photo images. So since it kind of looks like we have, you know, some pretty decent shading on there, that could work out really well. So that's what's going to be engraved on the blade. We'll get that back in center. And when we look at the preview, and because the image is reversed, that is what we're looking at. Now I could do this I could increase the DPI or the line interval, so it's like 0.06, 7, or 8, but that would add a lot of time to this. And honestly, I don't know how well this is going to work out. This is basically just a test to see how it goes. And if we look down here on this bottom right, we'll see it's going to be about 4 hours and 40 minutes to do this. When we look at our engraving or our machine there, what we're going to end up doing, you can see that. Matter of fact, let me get the light on this subject so that you can kind of see what we're looking at here. And get that out of the way. basically what I ended up doing is laying the knife on its side. I've got a little bit of clay or putty to hold the blade in place, and then we orientated it so that when we ran the let me see if I get this set so it'll stay, so you can see what I'm talking about. I think that could work. So basically when we run the framing on the program, and it'll run that route right there. And let's go ahead and we'll just do the regular framing, which is the entire build area of 80 by 80, but when we run the circle frame, it'll actually show what is being printed. So it's kind of, we're going to have a little bit of some over etching onto the build plate that we have. Like I said, this is such a small build area. You can't really build a template. I guess you could, but doing the template and doing all that and cutting it out just for this little one-off, I don't know if I want to put that much effort into it. If I was going to do blade etching as a side gig or more serious about it, then I would obviously get a larger laser, a better laser where I could do a template and do that. And of course you could do masking, and you could take photos, the newer lasers, you could take photos and then with the machine itself, and then you can impose the print on it, and it's all the bells and whistles that I don't have. So with that being said, let's go back to Lightburn, and since we're good to go, we'll double check 150 at 100% power. And we're good to go on all of that. And I think we'll just go ahead and hit start. And we'll take a look and see what happens. So this is going to actually engrave onto the plate, which is going to be a lot of wasted engraving time. But, again, I'm learning how to do all this stuff, and I'm not, maybe I'll get some cool etching onto my base plate there, which looks like that's what it's doing. Which, I don't think that's going to bother me in the least. I mean, it will eat up some engraving time. So, but yeah, it is what it is. Which I'm not really too concerned about. We are getting some burning, so let's go ahead and set up a little fan. Since I don't have a vent system on this just yet. Crack open the window. Man, it looks like it's going to be a nice day here in Korea. So eventually I'll get to a point of where I'll be able to learn to do the template, which could be good, and be able to mask the graphic onto the area that I actually want to engrave instead of having so much overscan onto the build plate. But we'll give this a shot, and it's just kind of a proof of concept thing. This will be kind of interesting to look at. Excuse me. And the recommended is usually the speed is 100 for plated metal. Yeah, plated metal is 100 speed or 100 millimeters per minute at 100. If you do steel, the same thing, 100 and 100. If you do coated metal, which is basically what we're doing now, the set as a speed is 1,000 by 100, but that's coated metal. I think that could be something more like this here, what we did. I haven't actually tried that out, so maybe I'll do that and to see how that works out. But right now, we'll see how well this engraving the blade comes out. Again, it's just a little test. It's not on, just a little crappy little, well, I shouldn't say crappy, just a little Gerber knife, and we'll see how that goes. But at least we'll get a good test out of this. And in case you're wondering, that's like a steel or aluminum. I think it's an aluminum plate that's on there that has some holes, and basically it's a jig that you can set up a jig, but it's got holes, and I had an L bracket for it, and you could screw in this little L bracket, but really, I'm not sure how you would use that, because like when I ended up doing my coasters, what happened is that, we got our coaster action there. Excuse me. But trying to find the center of this 80 millimeter build area, basically what I ended up doing is drawing a circle on Lightburn and putting it at the very center, so I was able to see what the center of the build area was, and then from there I was able to measure my coaster, which is 100 millimeters across, and then so basically on Lightburn I went from the dot that is in the middle of the build area, went 50 millimeters one way from the center, and then 50 millimeters in the other, and then up and down, and I was able to find the exact center. And then I just kind of used some calipers, marked that off, north, south, east, west, and then I was able to put my coaster on there, and then did the outline in a Sharpie. So at least I can get a good center for coasters, which is really nice. That came out really, really good. You can see that there. Purge the unclean. Points to those who got that reference from Warhammer. Let's see if we can get a little bit better. So you can see this is on slate, and the details on that came out great. Added the text in there, but we got some really good results on that. So I thought it would be harder to do stuff on slate, but actually it ends up, it's not that hard to do once you do your little test grid. There's another warrior there standing on the skulls of the defeated for the Emperor, the Imperium of Man, and Warhammer reference. But really, once you do your test grid, which is this right here, and then you can find out your optimal settings. Let's see if we can focus in. So there's our test grid for power and speed and the recommended settings, and our line interval, and you can see we got a little bit of a different color there in the top over here versus down over here. So if you wanted a little bit of a sepia color, you could kind of adjust your speed and your power for your slate if that's what you desire. But we just went with the basic color, a lighter color, and we'll see how that goes. I'll end up, I'm going to do 4 coasters for myself. So I've got 1, 2, And then I've got this one, which I finished off, which, it was so-so. That one turned out okay-ish, but it really depends on the graphic that you use. So I think I like something that's a little bit more, something that's more that has some clear stuff like that, or maybe even something that's set on a round background. That looks pretty cool as well. But with the darker items and the slate, that's going to be pretty cool. Getting to the point of being able to do knife blades, that could be an interesting side gig, but it depends on the test, And eventually I'll get a better engraver. Planning on getting a better engraver, laser engraving machine, which I'm kind of leaning towards the Raleigh Lasermatic. They have the XW, the extra wide, which has like a 26 by 16 engraving area. It's got the camera, a lot of bells and whistles, so we'll see how that goes. But then, you're looking about $2,000-ish, 22, 25 by the time you buy some additional stuff. So maybe about $2,500. But then if you look at things like, X-Tool. X-Tool has some great lasers, and they're pricey. Like the F1 Ultra, excuse me, like the F1 Ultra, it's like $4,800 or something crazy like that. It's pretty expensive. And then you have their X2P or whatever it is, XP2 CO2 laser system. But I think I want to run something similar, kind of like the Raleigh Lasermatic, the MK series, where you can go up to like 30 watts, and then you have like a 10 watt mode for engraving or 5 watt mode for engraving. So that looks pretty interesting. This is going to take a while. So what we'll end up doing, since we're engraving this, and again, we've done about 10 minutes out of 4 hours and 40 minutes of engraving, but that could come out nice. Maybe not. It's really small, at least on the build plate area. Wish I could get the camera in there a little bit better. I wonder if I can add my iPhone camera. And no. Maybe it's because I'm not on the same network. What is my Wi-Fi set to? I think it has to be on 5G. Let me see, what am I set at here? 2.4, 2.4. So the 5G, maybe if I hook up to my 5G, and we'll see how that goes. Because I think when you use your and we're not hooked up to Wi-Fi, so if I disconnect, hopefully this won't. Wi-Fi's off. We're still operating, so that's good. That's what we want. So let's see if we can use my iPhone. Excuse me. Nope, still not showing up. I wonder if it has to be plugged in. try that. Sorry for the inconvenience. We had some technical difficulties. Trying to, supposedly you can take your iPhone and connect it up to do the streaming and use this as a camera, but it's not clicking on all fours and it dropped out. So just to kind of let you know, we're doing some laser engraving, and we got this graphic of some damascus steel like etching. So that's what we're going to engrave on our little Gerber knife blade, which should turn out nice, hopefully. And if we take a look at our actual engraving going on, I don't know how to mask the image onto, or the graphic onto the thing that I want to engrave without all of the over etching. And that's basically what we see over here, is that it's engraving and it hasn't even gotten to the knife blade yet. So it's engraving, and if we kind of look on, you can see where it's going, but it's going at this angle here, and the knife blade's probably about right around here. So we'll have a lot of unused space going around the knife blade that is actually being engraved into the base plate of my rig there, which is aluminum or steel, whatever it is. It's engraving, it's annealed, has some coating on it, and yeah, I don't really care about that. This is just kind of a one-off thing, just testing a proof of concept. It's not like I'm going to be, doing knife blades on a little 5-watt rinky-dink beginner entry level laser K10 that I got from Wainlux. But since I'm retired and I need something to do, I figured, hell, why not? Let's see how that goes. I think that'll come out all right. Let's see how it goes. At least we'll get a cool engraving onto the base plate. And then I think this might be too small of an engraving for this, so I'd have to crop the image. We got jets overhead here in Korea. In case you didn't know, I live in Korea. But this graphic might end up being too small for this. So we'll do one side of the blade, see what happens, and then we'll probably do the other side in the same, I don't know, maybe we'll make this bigger and we'll crop it out a little bit. But with this, so for example, if I take this graphic and I extend it past the build area, it won't engrave. It won't allow you to engrave, which is kind of weird, because you think it would just like, hey, do you want to cut this off and just not engrave into the non-engraving area? Yeah, obviously. But again, I'm new to laser engraving, so I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking smack. But yeah, this might be too small, because when we look at those pictures of the damascus steel, let's go back to that, and you can see the etching. That's pretty large. So yeah, I'm automatically thinking right now that I should have made that image bigger. Maybe something like that. Even that is much larger than what we're doing on here. Acid etching, damascus steel, coffee etching. But what I ended up doing, etching, let's see if we can get drawing and see what pops up there. And another good resource is Pinterest. So you can get some real good pictures and examples and stuff like that. Knife etching. I can't even remember knife etching drawing. So I think it was somewhere along these lines, and I ran across some graphics that had that, and I was like, hey, let's give it a try and we'll see what happens. I just tried to pick the one that looked nice, but obviously that is not metal etching the old school way. And now you can run this stuff through, I mean, run it through a laser. Let's see, laser engraving, knife etching. I've never searched for this. Laser engraving custom knives. I guess you can do that. I guess it's a thing. I'll have to check out that video. So let's go take a look at videos. Deep metal etching for knife making. January 20th of this year. X-Tool D1 Pro. So yeah, it's not like I'm doing anything that nobody has never done before. But it will be interesting, especially on blades that are not covered in black, but you know, they're silver, kind of like what we end up seeing there. So I would think if you're going to engrave black on stainless steel, I'll have to look at that, then there would have to be some type of additive onto that. They're using a fiber laser on that. So yeah, that could be really interesting on getting some of the same results. Ooh, look at that. Laser engraving knives for personalization. Yeah, nice. So again, he's got a little bit of a jig there, using his X-Tool D1 Pro, preparing the design. So he's got a much larger build area. And that's settings for his laser, which is different. Frequency, resolution, air assist. Of course, you're going to do your test run, your test grid to get the best. So you can almost get you can almost get some colors onto the blade as well. Look at that. That could be nice. Deep laser engraving, fiber laser. So you could do some stuff like that. That'd be kind of cool. Coated stainless steel, damascus steel. Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for. But wow. It's a little 20-watt laser. What does that look like? The D1 Pro. I've seen some of the other ones. Oh, it's an open gantry. It's not like their newer series, like the F series or S or P series. That's like one of their older ones. So, yeah, that's cool. But yeah, when we take a look at some of these machines, like the F1, the F1 Ultra, I mean, so I have an IR and diode laser on the F1, which could work with metals and stuff like that. But you're looking at a few $1,000s. If we look at the F1 Ultra, what are we looking at? $3,600 for $3,700 just for that alone. That doesn't include any bells and whistles. And then if we look at the P series, which is a CO2 laser system, and let's take a look at their S1, and we're looking at 10 watt is, oh, that's not bad. That's a little 800, that's 15, that's 18. But what materials can you do on that? Laser engrave, switchable modules, so you can one pass air waste. Oh, 23.93, so basically 24 by 15. Rotary, okay, let's get to the materials. How it changed my life. Doesn't even show what materials can be engraved or cut. So it says a diode laser can do paper, wood, leather, MDF, felt, some dark opaque acrylic. Diode laser does all of those. Stainless steel, dark opaque, bamboo, fabric, dark glass, jade, ceramic, marble, shale, cement, brick, plated metal, painted metal. And then their little infrared laser can do metal, plastic, and black acrylic. Huh, interesting. So yeah, kind of interesting. Their P series, which is a 55 watt CO2, that's on sale. That's $3,700. Their P2S, that's $4,000, about 4,200. And then if you want the versatile bundle, which you get some materials, 20 ID courses, the rotary system, automatic conveyor feed belt, and a riser base, which is probably what I get. You're talking at $5,400. So yeah, and we're just doing our little 5 watt laser thing here. So yeah, this one, this laser was actually sent to me by Wainlux, and they offered it and said if they wanted, if I was interested in doing a review. And so we did some emails back and forth, and I was like, I really, honestly, I wasn't into lasers at all. I thought lasers was like, for like scrapbooking, hobby crafts, little flowery things and on balsa wood or whatever. I just wasn't really interested in that. I just wasn't exposed to all the things that you could do with laser engraving. And I had looked into laser engraving before, which way back in the day, like the old CO2 lasers, and those things ended up, they were expensive, they were huge, as far as took a footprint. And back when I first looked at them, they all came from China, which a lot of these still do. But you had a lot of people complaining that, oh, they're having problems. They spent more time tinkering with the laser than actually printing out stuff. And so it wasn't as user friendly. It wasn't like consumer electronics products where you take it out of the box, you plug it in, 5-10 minutes later, you're printing stuff, engraving stuff. Now we've gotten to the point in the laser engraving world where that's what's happening. But even then, this is just a tiny little 5 watt laser system that was a few $100. I think it was like $299 or $250, something like that. But being able to see what it can do for engraving on slate, I mean, that came out awesome. So we're going to do our knife blades and see how this is just a test, a practice on a little Gerber knife. Oh, does it actually get onto the blade itself yet? Nope, we're getting close. So close. But you got to remember that we set the depth of the laser or the focus onto the knife blade, which is above the bed. So it's actually engraving onto the metal bed until it gets to the level where it's actually on the knife. So what it's engraving now is out of focus. So when it gets onto the actual knife blade, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I didn't think I would enjoy laser engraving as much as I do, honestly. It's just something is like, wow, that's interesting. And we'll end up moving that a little bit over there. You can see my little buddy. That's a little Warhammer figure that I ended up doing. Ended up printing him out, doing resin printing on that, and then learned how to do painting. You know, the last time I painted something, I think I was like 13, and then, yeah, and it was kind of like, you know, the jet is gray, the Jeep is green, and so it wasn't detailed at all. And then at 17, I was in the Army, so I quit doing hobby things and did the adult things and did a career and all that, and worked for the state of Colorado, did some real estate investment and rehabs, had some huge ups and downs in my life, and then eventually it got to the point of working for the state of Colorado, and then I did that for 11 years as a correctional officer, security knuckle dragging guard, and then I did promotions, and because of my work in electronics in the military, I was able to get and become an electronics technician. So I did that for a number of years and working on fiber optics, computers, control systems, security panels, you know, the cell doors when they open and close, I'd work on those, and the control panels for those, stun fences, PTZ cameras, pretty much, you know, training on software and hardware, you know, security cameras that would have hard drive, you know, kind of like a DVR system where you can save the video. Well, we had huge banks of hard drives and redundant systems to save video footage since you're in a prison. And the last prison that I worked at was Fremont Correctional Facility, which has about 1,600 beds. And there was myself and one other technician. And the number of cameras in that facility was over 900 cameras. Now, when I got there, it didn't have that many, but as time went on over those years, I think it was like 8 years, we increased and added cameras like nobody's business. So basically, I think we almost doubled the amount of cameras than when I first got there versus when I left. So a lot of camera install. Ooh, I think we're getting actually on the blade now. Yes, indeedy. I think we are. Is it? Yes, it is. It is just reaching that tip. So right there, it's getting onto the knife blade. Cool. So it's getting right onto the tip. And yeah, so this, and we've got, that's not too bad. Well, not too bad. It's running at 150 millimeters per minute. So we got a 4 hours and 6 minutes and 40 some odd seconds, if the estimation is right. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this works out. And it's just a little gerber. You know, you pick up a gerber at, you know, Walmart, a store. You could probably get them at garage sales and things like that. You could do some very cheap testing on knife blades by just going to flea markets or garage sales. And, you know, it doesn't even have to be a nice knife. You could end up just finding old trash knives. I remember seeing garage sales in the United States where you would have utensils and pots and pans of people who are moving or somebody who passed away and they're, uh, you know, getting rid of the estate by doing, garage sales or whatever. But I remember a couple times seeing a garage sales. This one lady, she had a box of knives. Just, she must have been a kitchen knife freak because, I mean, she had some pretty nice knives, but she had some Barney Basic stuff. She had the Walmart stuff, the middle of the road stuff, but I guess they were moving and a job opened up or something. So, yeah, they were selling a lot of their stuff. But, yeah, it was like, how much for a knife? 50 cents, or 25 cents, or, you know, oh, that's going to be $3. Come on, give me a break. I'll buy multiple items and end up, 50 cents a knife or $1 for a knife. How much practice can you get? Probably a lot if it's a large size knife. But I think this will be good. I'm really enjoying the laser engraving and being able to dial in, get all this stuff going, and make something. Well, I'm not making anything. In all honesty, you just kind of set the graphics, you do some stuff, and the machine does all the work. But I was really surprised at, I thought this would be more involved and more detailed, but it's not. It's a lot easier than what I initially thought. So there's that. Get my Warhammer guy in there. So yeah, this is going to take a while. So anyway, we'll do another video. Other than that, I just don't want to let this run and live stream and not engage. I mean, I could, I guess. But I would have to mute the... I guess I could. I could just run this and just let it go. Which is an option. I could just turn off the mic and then just let this go and I'll just do whatever I'm going to do. But yeah, I think the graphic is a little bit too small, as we see here. I should have made this bigger and then cropped it to fit the 80 by 80 millimeter engraving space that I have, so it would be larger and more recognizable. But we're actually getting on the blade there. Yeah, we're just getting onto the tip. But there's other cool things that you can do with Lightburn as well. What we have in Lightburn, this is additional software. It doesn't come with a K10, but I think it's like $100 for the basic, and then if you want Lightburn for like basic gerber lasers and then larger CO2 and whatever, I think it's like $200. But there's a lot of cool stuff that you can end up doing here. So, of course, you can do all that. Where is some other stuff you could do? Tools, just image, warp, deform, arrange, grid array, circular array, laser tools, center finder. I think that's what I end up using for finding the center. Calibrate camera lens. We don't have that. We have our different options there. Somebody was saying there was you could do QR codes on this to create a QR code on Lightburn. I'll have to look that up. I mean, I ended up doing one where I went to like a web page and it ended up that you could put in, like, if you want, you could put in a website address, you could actually make it to where if you scan the QR code, it would automatically send a text to whatever number that you put in there, or an email or something like that. There are other ones that you could do a QR code, and then you could actually put in like your home internet network. So if somebody wanted to use the Wi-Fi in your house, instead of like, hey, what's your Wi-Fi? And then you have to search around and try to find the login and the password, and they're trying to get it in there. What they could end up doing is just scanning the QR code, and boom, they're in, which I thought was really cool. And that could have some pretty cool stuff for like if you have a business and people need to use your Wi-Fi, or you offer that as a service, instead of typing in a login and password, you could end up doing just scan a QR code. Or if you have an Airbnb, something like that. So we're continuing on. Engaging and engraving the knife blade, and doing a lot of over scanning or over etching onto the steel build plate that I have in there. Okay, I'm going to be right back. Alrighty, let's see what we got going. Yep, we're getting a little bit onto the blade. But I think it's going to be way too small for the graphic. I think that's basically going to laser etch away too much of this material. Interesting. Do I let it go for just another 4 hours? Or just do I stop it here and then readjust? Because I could always go back and just re-engrave, and it's right on the tip. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. Because that engraving is so small. Let's pause it and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Really hard to see. So let's see if we can get this camera off of here and get you a little bit of a close-up view. Yeah, I know, sorry. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a closer up view on what we're talking about. Let's see. Wow, that is kind of not in focus, is it? Manual focus. Let's see if we can do some manual focus stuff on this. Oh, yeah. Maybe. The lag time on this is a little bit better. A little bit better. So yeah, basically what we can end up seeing, I think it's better. See how it's just on the very tip, but if we look onto the build plate there, that area, what we end up seeing is just, it's almost like it's corroded. It's not really, the graphic isn't big enough to give that Damascus steel type etching on there. Basically, it'll just kind of look like a dirty blade by the time it's done. So, see if we can just a little bit more. Let's see if we can adjust this just a hair. So you can see what I'm talking about. So it almost looks like it's just pitting instead of a big etching that we want, because that graphic is just so small. Little details on that are just too small. So yeah. Come on. See if we can't. Excuse me for a second, we'll just kind of zoom away. Look away! Yeah, I got to use the manual focus on this. So you can see it doesn't really leave a lot of black in there. And again, it just looks like a corroded, rusted type of pattern, which is not what we want, because basically we want some larger black areas or white areas, and to show some contrast and try to get that Damascus etched look-ish thing. So I think it's a good thing that we stopped. So we'll go back and we'll get out of the manual focus thing here, and we'll back up and put our camera back into where it was, with our little rinky-dink tape thing that we got going on here. And that's good enough for government your work. And so now I think what we'll end up doing, because this is too small, that I need to increase this in size. And that is the graphic. So if I increase this in size like this, first of all, let's do this. And I don't want to do that. I'm going to have to that would be better, I think. because each one of these squares is 10 by 10 millimeters, so it's basically 1 centimeter. So that will give you some type of sense of scale on there. You know, you're looking at a centimeter. Focus. But yeah, some type of sense of scale. I'm going to have to go back and redo this because I don't know if you can crop an image in Lightburn. Let's see, adjust, cut, deselect, lock, preview, adjust image. No, that's not the adjustment that I want. But that is what will end up happening. So we have because the image is a negative, over here it's the lot of white with just some black engraving, but what we would end up doing is doing the opposite because we're engraving on a dark item. How would you crop? Crop image. So tools, crop image. Okay. So there, tools. For selection. Oh, that's just warping. So we don't want that. So tools, resize in selection. V-form selection. Okay. No, we don't want that. Okay. That is the selection. Now I don't understand how if I select that and I'm not able to crop. Resize slots in selection. So maybe if I do that, now I don't even get that. Select it. Yeah, I'm going to have to study up on this because I am clueless as to what all this is. So, with that being said, I think I'm going to have to call this a wash. And I'm going to have to go back and get the dimensions of the knife blade, look at pictures of knives with damascus etching, and then try to match the size of the graphic and enlarge and then crop and then do this whole process again because that's just way too small of what we ended up seeing there. So for our etching on there, just a bit too small because you didn't get some of the intricate designs that you saw like we did on the websites. So there it is. Yeah, interesting stuff. So anyway, that's going to be it for today. We'll come back later today and maybe do another live stream. Trial and error. You know, you need to test your materials, do your test grids for whatever materials you're doing, kind of like what we ended up doing on our coasters, which turned out great. I mean, the coasters ended up on slate just ended up being really, really good. And you can see there the details just came out smoking hot. That's one of them. This is another one that came out really good. Really, really good on this. This one, I did it, but I'm not too, I mean, the graphic came out okay, but it's just not as, and everything's backwards. It didn't come out as well defined as the other ones. It's still a nice coaster. These are going to be my coasters, and then I'll make some really nice ones for the wife. But yeah, for this knife etching thing, I think we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. So anyway, and we found some videos on knife etching, so I will peruse those as well and to see if I get any tips or tricks, and we will work from there. So if you got any ideas, appreciate it. Put them in the comment section down below. Be sure to like and subscribe. Buy me a coffee if you feel so inclined, but if not, at least give this video a like. I would really appreciate that, and it would help the channel. So, something to do as I'm retired here in Korea, because I'm Steve, the retired hobby tech guy, and diving into laser engraving with my little 5-watt rinky-dink laser. We'll see what cool stuff we can do. All right, we'll see you on the next video. Take care. Peace. Back to the drawing board.